Hello, and welcome to another episode of Break the Cycle. Me, your host, Joshua Smith. Hope everyone's having a wonderful whatever night it is. This is still recorded previously, and I am probably in Disney World, but I appreciate you guys coming and checking me out. Hopefully I'll be in the chat hanging out with you guys during the show, talking with you, being more responsive to the chat than I can be when I'm actually doing the show. So that's one bonus. But I'm sure we're having a hell of a time. Well, the kids are. I'm probably in hell. But, you know, what are you going to do? We got to take the kids. We got a great show for you tonight. Like I said, thanks for hanging out. But let's start off with some sponsors. Of course, we have toplobster.com, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend and partner on Break the Cycle, where you can get this great high on the idea of Liberty Ron Paul hoodie that I'm wearing tonight for a 10% discount by using BTC at checkout. Or you can go on over to the Patreon or the Subscribe Star. Both of those are / Break the Cycle JS, where you can get you get into the private Discord server where you can get all of Top Lobster's new gear up to 2 weeks early at a 30% discount. So really, if you're one of the lower tier paying members of Break the Cycle, you're actually it's paying for itself if you're buying Top Lobster gear. So it's really good. It's good benefit, I promise. And of course, executive producers of the show, anthemplanning.com, for all your emergency and crisis planning needs. Check them out today. See what they can do for your business, home, or personal life. They're doing a wonderful job that the government has historically sucked at, much cheaper and much more efficiently. Seriously, if you own your own business, you're thinking about starting a business, you have a business-like model in mind, check them out. It's free to check out the website, and I guarantee you they can find something for you that's going to help you immensely and save you tons of money. So go over there and check them out. Guys, got a great show for you tonight. I'm very excited. He's one of my favorite Twitter followers. Follows. I'm not gonna lie, man. I've been following this guy for a while. He's pretty savage. He definitely he's got the good old boy sense of politics, I guess you could say. I guess he's politically homeless, is what he would or political orphan, as he says on Twitter. He's border state mongrel. He is the Kentucky rebel scum. Sir, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you, Josh?
Oh, I can't complain, man. I'm stoked to have you on the show.
It's not going to do you any good to complain.
It wouldn't. And you know what? My kids will just make fun of me. My fiance will get mad at me, so it's just better to just shut up.
Nobody's going to listen anyway.
Exactly. That's why I keep saying on the show, man, with all this tyranny flying around, it's like we could sit around and complain all day, but until we start fighting back, what does it matter? No, they don't give a shit.
Yeah. No, that's right. They don't. And that's exactly what they want. They just want to keep us bickering amongst ourselves so that we're distracted from what they're doing.
Exactly.
It's a classic tactic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Divide and conquer. I mean, it's one of those sayings that we've heard repeatedly over and over and over again in our lives, but I think some people, it doesn't ever register with them that, like, hey, that's an actual thing. People actually do that, and they're doing that to you right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually didn't learn that from politics. I learned that from a guy I used to work with.
Yeah.
He was an asshole.
Yeah.
But that's, his whole thing was he was in a managerial position, and if he could keep, get people in his unit arguing with each other, then they were distracted from, the shitty work he was doing. So, and he just pretty much openly admitted it to me.
Jeez.
So it's like, what a dick.
Sounds like an asshole. And it happens on a small scale too. I mean, it's not just the government that does that, but I don't think anybody's ever been better at doing it than the government. That's for sure.
No, they're excellent. They're excellent at their tactics.
Yeah, they are absolute professionals. They've had 200 and some odd years to practice.
Yeah, and they are 10 steps ahead. I'm just, by the time you think of it, they're already past that. They're already working on the next thing. They've already got that lined out.
Yep.
It's not a lot of this. I'm not saying that a lot of what we're seeing is planned, but they are not going to miss an opportunity to take advantage of it.
Sure. So, that's what I try to explain too.
Everything in place to do it.
I try to explain that to people that watch the show, especially, like I'm a conspiracy theorist for sure. I mean, I definitely have my conspiracy theories. A lot of the times my conspiracy theories are proven right very quickly, especially these days. It's like every 2 weeks, my conspiracy theory is proven right. But at the same time, it's like, it doesn't have to be some grand conspiracy. It can just be that something happened, like a pandemic or some planes hitting a building or something like that, and the government said, "All right, we got a perfect opportunity to get this shit through." Like they're capitalizing.
Yeah, I mean, 9/11 is a perfect example of that. I talk about it a whole lot because the Patriot Act was one of the things politically that started turning me And the Patriot Act was, the rough draft of it was sitting on somebody's desk in the mid 90s or mid to late 90s. It was sitting there ready to go, and they were just looking for an opportunity to implement it. Sure. And we were, there were some of us that looked at it even then and were like, how are they not going to use this? How are they not going to use this against us? How can this not be, and of course the whole, well, they wouldn't, this is for foreign terrorists, and this is for the Islamists. And we're sitting there thinking, you change a few words, you do a few little things and a little tap dance around it, and boom, well, here we are.
Yep.
They didn't waste that opportunity.
And how many terrorists have the TSA stopped? Zero. Fucking zero.
Please.
Well, you talk a little bit about the Patriot Act being a helpful hand in you turning. For me, the Patriot Act came about a time when I thought I was going to do my glorious duty of fighting the terrorists. So I joined the military right after 9/11. I graduated high school right around 9/11, and then it was like off to the military because, we had to go protect our country. And so I thought I was doing the right thing. And then, within 6 months of joining, I was in the Persian Gulf, and we were fighting Iraq. And I'm going, what the fuck are we doing in Iraq? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I was like, I'm pretty sure Iraq is not the ones who perpetrated 9/11, but half the country thought they were.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I remember where I was at when of course, yesterday was actually the anniversary of us going into Afghanistan,
right?
In 2001, and then I remember where I was at when we went into Iraq that night. That it was on the news. It was all over the news. And we were in a hotel in Indianapolis up there next to the airport. And I was sitting on the end of the bed and I was watching, and I turned and my wife was still up, and I said, this is a mistake. This is a mistake. We don't need to be doing this. And so those events, and I'm not saying that the attacks, however that you want to define that, I'm not that big of a conspiracy theorist. I have my ideas on things that happened as far as with 9/11, but those events were kind of my turning points, and it's been a process.
Sure.
For me. It's not. I wasn't all in from the get go. I wasn't all in. I still thought, I was still naive enough to think there's still good people there that we're going to turn this. We're going to, there's got to be, and then we had the Tea Party movement, and after Obama was elected, and it gave some of us a little bit of hope, and of course that got hijacked and shit riddled by the Republicans.
Yeah.
So
no shit.
And that was kind of my after the Tea Party. I was very active in our area with it, and after I saw what was starting to happen, I was like, that's it, I'm out. This was supposed to be not about right and left, not about red and blue. This was about restoring some sanity to some things from both sides, and it just wasn't like that. So it's like, I'm done.
Yeah, it was very strange to me. The Tea Party thing, it came about before I was like politically active, you know what I mean? And by the time I was politically active, it had fallen apart, and the only person that I really respected or knew was Ron Paul, and I worked on Ron Paul's campaign in 2008. Yeah. I was big, street organizer for Ron Paul in California in 2008, and came full circle. He endorsed me last year for Libertarian Party chair, which was just, I can die happy now, you know what I mean? But
it's great.
Yeah, the war was really what started turning me too. It was in a different way, you know what I mean? 9/11 happened. I was hardcore neoconservative. I was ready to fight wars. I joined the military. Sure. Then I went to war, and I'm going, wait a minute. This isn't right. This isn't the correct. Why are we fighting Iraq? This doesn't make any sense to me. And when you're talking about sitting on the hotel bed in Indianapolis, watching George Bush declare war. Meanwhile, I'm in the Persian Gulf while he's doing that at the same exact time. And I used to go down to the machine shop. The machine shop had these vents, for the machines in there. And I'd go down there when the smoking sponson light was not lit. I'd go down there. My buddy'd be there in the middle of the night, and I'd smoke a cigarette and blow it through the vent. And we're down there, and George Bush, he's watching the little satellite television, and the George Bush declares war, and you just hear people running all over the place. They're calling birds away. Everybody's running up to their shops. I'm like, I gotta fucking go, And we started running like 36-hour flight ops. We had 2 galleys on the ship. I was on the USS Constellation. They had 2 galleys on the ship, and the second galley they shut down, turned into a bomb building station. Basically, it was like they were putting together all this ordnance, and all that ordnance was going up to the deck. The birds were taking them off the deck, coming back empty all day long. And we dropped 100 million tons of ordnance on Baghdad. Crazy shit. And that was, to me, I was like, this isn't right. Like this is like, that's like San Francisco, Baghdad. It's like, there's people that live there. There's family pets. There's dreams and goals and aspirations. And these people are not insurgents. You know what I mean?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And that was, my whole thing was just all I could see. I think at that moment, what I saw was quagmire. That's what I saw. It was like, this is not good. We don't need to be bogged down in here. And, and then of course, Afghanistan kept going, and it was like, you guys need to either let them do their job and get out, or just, we need to get out. We can't stay there. And of course, for 20 years I 100% celebrate getting out, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. I mean, it was a botched deal.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny because all the way
around. It was a botched deal all the way around. That was both sides. I'm not pointing any. I don't give a shit what people think about Biden or don't think about Biden. I could really give 2 cares about Biden. It wouldn't have mattered who was in charge. It was a shit show. And it was a shit show before he ever took over. It's been a shit show for 20 years. Right. So just go to everybody start going, Biden's, it was his. No, it wasn't his. It wasn't his deal. It wasn't his fault. There's some stuff that got screwed up, but they're all culpable in this. So, both sides, I don't have any use for any of them.
Right.
At all.
Well, I had a guy on the show that goes by the name of Grunt Paw. He's from the hooligan side of Twitter, and he's retired Army guy that had done I think 2 tours in Afghanistan and one in Iraq. And he said that it was, the real botch job was like the generals. They were the ones who really screwed it all up because, there's the chain of command. You know how the military works. It's the fucking chain of command. It all comes down from the top. And by the time it hits the grunts on the ground, it's been through 25, 30 fucking people. And it's just like a game of telephone, And so it was like the generals really dropped the ball. A lot of the command leadership dropped the ball, and it really is. It's everybody's fault. It's everybody's fault. It really is. And the fact that the war continued for 21 years or whatever, 20 years that's the government's fault. That part is the government's fault.
100%.
All of the government.
Yeah, it wasn't, and it was never the guys that were on the ground.
Sure.
It never. And I get that from my dad. I have the utmost respect for someone who, like yourself, who stepped forward and said, hey, look, I can't hold anything against you at all because you were doing what you thought was the right thing to do. And you guys sacrificed and you bled, and you friends and people that didn't come back. And that I'm never going to hack on anyone for doing that at all. But now those in charge, there needs to be some accountability on some shit. And there's not.
Yep. I agree.
It's not there. I
agree 100%.
It's not there.
So you talk a little bit about
guys like you that served end up catching all the shit.
Oh yeah, it's always us, man. It's always us. And I have my regrets especially for what we were part of over there, you know what I mean? But it's like, I can't go back and change it. But what I can do is speak out against war. And that's been my movement for the last, almost 20 years now, pretty much has been this anti-war sentiment. That's the number one thing for me. I have these other pet projects too. I think the war on drugs is terrible. I think our criminal justice system needs a good reforming. There's a lot of things going on in this country that, and obviously the issue of our times now is this COVID tyranny. We really need to be watching watching that. But the wars and the Federal Reserve, for me, have been the two biggest, because the Federal Reserve is the one who continues to, this is how we continue to fund these wars. They're just they're at the root of all the nasty shit in this country, and so those have always been my biggest issues, and they'll continue to be my biggest issues until we're not fighting wars in the Middle East or anywhere anymore. You know what I mean? Which, with the way these contractors are set up in this country, I don't know that will ever happen until we abolish the government.
Yeah.
So
you have to cut the money off.
Yep. 100%. So you talked a little bit about, like I said, Iraq being kind of a stepping stone in your journey, but why don't we talk a little bit about your journey? How did you get to these, these anti-state policies in your head?
Man, like I said, my dad was not a political guy. Neither was my mom. But my mom was raised they both were raised with a conservative, very conservative households on both sides. But my dad was just probably the most politically neutral guy that I'd ever known, and he was a libertarian, or the libertarian type, and didn't even know it. He was didn't have any use for any of it at all. And I guess I kind of had that seed planted. But I was right out of high school when the events, of the mid 90s happened with, Waco and Ruby Ridge, and those things caught my eye, but it wasn't something that I paid as much attention to as I should have at the time. I remember watching the stuff on Waco, and it was kind of the same thing with Iraq. It's like, I don't know, this doesn't seem right. What's going on here? Something's off. Something doesn't smell right. But, you have that conservative, that like you said, you want to call it neocon, but for me, it was a conservative way of thinking. It was I think that's a dirty, I think that's been conveyed as a dirty word now, but when I hear conservative, it's more like how I was raised and the social values and those kinds of things more than, but as I said, the events after 9/11 with the Patriot Act, and you fast forward to 2008 with that huge omnibus bill, the stimulus bill that everybody signed off on. Both sides, Republicans came out cheering for it. And then you have, about 2010, the Tea Party mess. And it was like, at that point, it was like, okay, that's it. I'm finished. I'm done. I'm done with this whole thing. They're all crooked. They all are playing for the same team.
Right.
And, it's like everybody quotes Carlin all the time, but it's true. It's a big club and you ain't in it.
You ain't in it, Jack. Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. They know us so well, and they have us so conditioned that they've got one team pitted against another team. And they have everybody believing that, my team is the correct team and their team is wrong. And so they keep us constantly like this. So that keeps us distracted, just like dangling set of keys. We're looking over here and they're doing something over here.
Yep.
And I started putting all that together and it was like, I'm done.
Good. As you should be, as you should be, as you should be. It really is a wild world out there, man. And so Kentucky's been kind of strange over the last 2 years for me, because you got this governor, Andy Beshear, who's a weird Democrat, like tyrant, who probably shouldn't be the governor of a state like Kentucky, but I also, I had the chair of the Libertarian Party of Kentucky is a good friend of mine, Randall Daniel. I had him on a couple weeks ago, and I started talking with him about how some of these whiskey companies are actually in bed with the government there, and I was just the stories he was telling me was just wild to me. I didn't really understand that it was like that there. You know what I mean? I figured these whiskey companies would be like down home Southern, like, you know what I mean? But not at all. Not at all.
They don't like competition.
Right.
They don't like it. And they're in, of course, with the state. And that way it's very hard for someone to set up any type of competition with them. I mean, it is crazy. Kentucky politically is a hot mess. It always kind of has been.
Sure.
And you look at some of the background, and you want to talk about Kentucky being a red state. Well, let's back up. Let's back up to the 90s. Let's back up to the early 2000s. Kentucky wasn't such a red state. Kentucky was a blue dog Democrat state. I mean, an old coal union state. Your working man's Democrat who was socially conservative when it came to the household, but he was more liberal when it came to those policies where it could help him with his employment.
Sure.
So there's a lot of that, but there's still a lot of that blood here. And so then you have, folks like that, like I was raised with, it was like, you do things for yourself, you advance yourself, you protect your family, you do all these things, and you don't rely on anyone else. So, my family was, I won't say anti-union, but we're not in with that line of thinking. So you have Trump that comes along, and all of a sudden Kentucky is a red state.
Right.
Well, the reason is because Trump knows his audience.
Right.
Okay. Now he might be a psychopath. I don't know. He might be a brilliant genius. I don't know. But he knows his audience. He is a showman, and he knows his audience. He knows what to say. He knows what buttons to push. And he spoke right to those working class families, those old union families where their jobs were gone now because the coal's gone. And, did you ever see Trump go to war with any of the unions anywhere?
No, absolutely not.
Nothing. Because he was smart enough and he knew his audience and he kept his mouth shut and he didn't piss them off.
Right.
And he got their votes. Bevin, our former governor, which I liked, probably wouldn't have liked him. He was kind of dickish, but he had a big mouth on him and he didn't know when to keep it shut. That was his biggest trouble. Now, what he was doing with the teachers, with the pension funds and things, was admirable, and it needs to be done. It's not solvent. It's an open wound. And he was trying to work with that, but in the process, he decided to go to war with the teachers union, which is probably the biggest union in this state.
Biggest union in the country.
Largest voting blocks. Yes, this state especially. Yeah. It is powerful, and it is well-oiled, and it has a huge voting block. Every other person you meet, I work in a college town, okay? Every other person that you run into either works for a school system or is a teacher. And it's almost like a 75-25 split on the people that despised Bevin and the people that tolerated him. I won't say anybody that even liked him as far as that were in that group. So when you go up against that union, you're screwed. You just shot yourself in the foot. That's it. You can't combat that.
Right.
It's despite all the good things that he was doing. There was some people say it was stolen. I don't know. I don't know. I think things are being manipulated. But one big thing that he did was go to war with them, and right before an election, and that's it.
Yeah.
Game over. Now he went down swinging. I'll give him that. Like I said, I think he was trying to be Trump light, and he just wasn't as good at it.
Sure.
And it got him into trouble. He was stuck his foot in his mouth a whole lot, and it just didn't look good.
Yeah, I think the only other governor I know that's been decent at trying to be like Trump has been DeSantis. I think he's been the only one.
Yeah. Well, he knows, and he's like Trump. I believe he knows. I believe he knows how to speak to people.
Right.
I believe he knows how to. Everybody like that. I would say everybody. I don't include myself in that. I will sit back and watch Trump and go and roll my eyes like, oh gosh. Well,
I tried to tell people Trump has always been. Primaries, oh yeah, Trump has always been a New York liberal. Always.
Yeah, always.
His whole life.
And I was talking to people when he was running in the primary, and I'm like, he used to hang out with Bill and Hillary Clinton. They were best friends right up until he got ready to run for office.
Shocking.
They were hanging out.
Yeah.
You know, don't look. This is a big wrestling match. They all of a sudden they were friends like 10 minutes before, and now they're mortal enemies. I ain't buying that crap. It's all a dog and pony show because they hung out for years together. He hung out with that elite. Now, whether you like him or whether you don't, that's just the truth of it. And I go back to it. He knew his audience.
Right. Yeah.
He's a showman.
Wrestling
he's a showman.
What do they say? Wrestling is politics is pro wrestling for adults. That's what it is.
Yes, that's it. It's all a big show. And so during the primaries, people started jumping on board with this, and I'm like, are you nuts? But the son of a bitch won. Whether you believe in voting or not believing, but he won. Right. And there we are. And it was, it had its moments, but it got tiresome for me. It's just like, oh gosh, just don't say anything. Just do your thing. But the one thing that there's a couple things that he did do that I credit him for. And one thing, I guess it's exposing on, both of them are exposing things, but just exactly how biased and crooked the mainstream media is, right, which a lot of us already knew, but there was a huge majority in the country that didn't believe it. He exposed that. And then the other thing is to expose just how, to a lot of people, just how corrupt and trashy our system of government and our government is. He did those things. Now, whether he did it on purpose or whether it was inadvertently, he did it. And he did wake a lot of people up to it.
Sure.
I agree. Give him credit for those things.
I agree. I said
100%.
I said the best thing that Trump did was he red-pilled people on the media being the enemy of the people. That's the best thing Trump did. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely 100%. And he had a lot of opportunities to do some things that would make it even worse. Like when he was walking out of office, he could have easily pardoned Julian Assange. You know what I mean? And really gave a big FU to the establishment and the mainstream media, and he didn't. So he kind of took the coward's way out, in my opinion.
But that just shown actually his character. To
right.
be honest, I mean, it just did to me. It's like when all that happened, a lot of people went in an uproar about it, and I was sitting back going, well, not shocked.
Knew that was coming.
He's not shocked. He's in it. He's a self-promoter. That guy with that much going on, he doesn't have a small ego.
Right.
That's his Achilles heel is his ego. And it's big.
Yeah.
It's a big ego.
It is a big
ego. And he feeds it.
Hardly feeds it.
Yep. He loves all the attention, whether it's negative, positive, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
So there was no surprises there. And we see right now, I had a lot of conversations with people during the primaries and even after he won. And, I could see right away that the Republican establishment did not like him. They were putting on a happy face, but they didn't like him.
Well, you of all people should know because you got Turtle himself, Mr. McConnell there.
Oh yeah. So anyway, I was talking to people and they were talking about, he's going to do he's talking about all these things he was going to do, and they were parroting those things to me. And I'm like, he can't do those things without a willing legislature.
Right.
And they were like, but the majority, we have to, we, when I say we, they're talking about Republicans, because I was talking to Republicans, because I give the Republicans more hell than the Democrats, because Democrats kind of own themselves, in my opinion, but because I was a Republican, I was in that, and I'm trying to wake people up.
Right. And
it's like, he can't do anything without a willing legislature, and they hate his guts.
Right.
Okay, and he's going to have to do everything by legislating with the pen. And what have we done for the past 8 years but complained every time Obama picked a pen up and wrote something in? we were like, you can't do that. You can't do that. Well, now it's okay for Trump to do that because that's the only way he's going to get anything done. Yeah. They're not going to, anything solid, anything good, anything that's going to improve things, he's not going to get, it's not going to be set in stone.
Right.
And now what do we see? Hey, he's gone the very second he is out the door, they are putting the eraser to that stuff. They are writing over the top of it.
Of course.
Changing everything. And here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Well, no, and those,
now that whole 4 years is just like it didn't happen.
Gone. Well, and those edicts, I mean, when you cheer on those edicts, when you cheer them on, they're going to be used against you eventually. When it's not your guy in office anymore.
Yeah, I didn't cheer them on when Bush did them.
Sure.
I didn't cheer them on. That's when I started paying attention because that was that 2000 election and that 2001 with 9/11. That was in that era, and that's when my ears started perking up and I started paying attention. And when Bush did it, I didn't like it. When Obama did it, I didn't like it. I didn't like when Trump does it, and I don't like it when Biden does it because it's not right.
Right.
It's not. It's not stable. It's not a stable way to legislator to run things, and don't even get me started in all the overreach that they got their hands into everything anyhow. The majority of the stuff that they write out is, to me, in my mind, it should be useless because they shouldn't even have that power.
Right.
But
and I agree.
Nobody's going to stop them. There's no there's no accountability in it.
Right. Government doesn't have accountability. What the government. I try to explain this to people. No. When a government agency starts to do bad things, the government doesn't get rid of that agency. They start a new agency for oversight, which also starts doing bad things. That's how that works.
Yeah. That is how it works. Yeah, that is how it works.
I'm gonna make you big because I'm having some camera issues here, but you can still hear me. But yeah, man, I can't. Yeah. I can't. It's so hard to explain to people like the. Especially the people who supported Trump or the people now who support Biden, it's like they're so tribalistic. It's like this chest beating team sport shit where it's and they don't listen. They don't understand that, hey, your guy's not always going to be in there. They only got 8 years max, dog. Right. You know what I mean? And then you got to deal with the next guy doing all the same shit that you thought was bad 8 years ago and then thought was good for 4 years, Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't think about how that's going to be used against them, like you said later. They don't think that out that far ahead.
Oh yeah, of course not. Because if they did, they wouldn't be supporting those things even when it was their guy doing it.
Right. Because like I said, the Patriot Act kind of woke me up to that of how things could be used against us.
Right.
And so I started looking at it from both sides and like this is something that neither one of them should be doing because you cheer this on now, but 8 years from now or however long, what happens when the next guy decides to use this against your team? So, bad idea all around.
Yeah.
Let's say I like to put the whole thing in the dumpster and start, reset the whole deal.
Yeah, we need a hard reset, not the great reset, right? Is that
yeah.
Well, let's switch things up a little bit. Let's talk about Kentucky bourbon.
Okay.
I love Kentucky bourbon. What are some of your? This tradition runs deep in your state, man. I mean, it's a long time. What's some of your favorite bourbon?
Well, I mean, anybody that follows me knows that probably my number one favorite, my biggest go-to is Angel's Envy. Now, there would be some that probably would argue whether it's even bourbon or not. It's finished in port wine barrels.
Sure.
It's still aged like bourbon, but it's finished in those wine barrels. And so that leaves a little bit of open interpretation there, but it's a little lower proof. So it's a little smoother. It's a little easier to drink. And I from the first time I had it, I fell in love with it. And that's probably what I buy the most of. If I can't find anything else, if I can't make up my mind, then I grab a bottle of that. And I know it's going to be, I know what I've got. I have a cousin. I didn't get into bourbon until, and I'm still not into it. Look, I'm no expert. Nobody needs to listen to me. I just know what I like.
Yeah.
I know what I like. And I try to tell everyone all the time, like, everybody's palate's different, you know, because the question of what's the best bourbon? Well, I don't know. I don't know what your tastes are, because I may think there may be a $35 or $30 bottle of bourbon that I think is better than what you're drinking that's $75.
Right.
You know, it just depends. I don't know that there's the greatest. But my cousin started me. He started me out on it. We started just kind of, or he did, started picking up bottles here and there, and I was up at his house one afternoon or one weekend in the evenings, and we were building a man cave in his basement. We've been working on it, and he pulls this out, and Angel's Envy out, and he's like, "Have you ever had this?" And I'm like, "No." He said, "Well, try it." He said, "I think you'll really like it," and I did, and I've kind of been hooked ever since.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And I was talking.
That's my go-to.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to my camera.
I found some others I like. Well, I found some others that I like just as much.
Yeah,
but I know every bottle's consistent too, and
I may have
always been good.
I may have just completely lost my my camera. I don't know what's going on. I've never lost it like this before. So I apologize to everybody.
What figures? Because you know why? Because I'm on here. That's why.
I've never,
I've jinxed it.
My camera will go down from time to time, and typically I can fix it right up. But for some reason, this time it's just not coming back up. Here we'll put a picture of Liberty Lockpot in there. That'll be fun. We can make fun of him.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Get Clint in there.
I don't know. I tried to edit it. It should be him, but it's not working either. I don't know what's going on. Something wrong with my webcam utility. But we're still going. We still got about 10 minutes. But some of my favorite bourbon obviously is from Kentucky too. And they say all. It's not real bourbon unless it's from Kentucky, right?
Well, yeah. Yes. And I try not to hold to that too hard, but I give some people hell over it a lot. But technically, yes, if it's got to come from Kentucky if you're going to call it bourbon, and some of the settlers from Pennsylvania and from Virginia, brought that kind of in here with them, that aging process for making whiskey. But Kentucky has the water. What makes Kentucky bourbon different is the location and the climate. I think everything's where the heart of bourbon country is just seems to be the perfect spot to distill and to age. The humidity, the temperatures for the times of year, the water that's used. We have very soft limestone here in the state, and it dissolves into our water system. So you have that limestone water. You have the right climate, the right humidity, and the right changes in the temperature. And they've got those rack houses built where they rotate those things in and out, and it's just the best state to make it. Now, I'm not saying that I've not had good bourbon from other states. We talked about that.
Right.
I'm not going to say from where, because I'm not going to give them any credit much, but there's some good bourbons out there that are made in other places.
Nice. Yeah. See,
I'll give them credit where credit is due. Because to me, there's a quote that I use all the time. There's no wrong way to enjoy whiskey. The only wrong thing to do is not enjoy it while you have it.
Right.
So
right. Well, now look at me. Now my camera came back up, but for some reason it won't full screen. I don't know what's going on here. This is craziness.
Yeah.
Sorry about all this, man. I'm listening to all your great stuff, but
yeah,
I'm trying to do tech work on the fly.
There's a lot of good ones out there that's made in the state, and I've really gotten into going to the smaller, more independent distilleries. Also, the ones that are not run by the big companies, but those guys there, we've got one right down there, and I promote it all the time. That's usually, if you see how much, whenever I meet up with somebody that I know on Twitter, I'll bring them a bottle of it there, and it should be familiar to people that follow me. It's called Lincoln Pinch, but it's made in Dueling Grounds. It's made at Dueling Grounds Distillery, which is in Franklin, Kentucky, which is just close to the Tennessee-Kentucky state line. And they're an independent distiller. They've been in for about 4 or 5 years now, maybe just a little bit longer. And they're fairly new, and they've got a great product. They don't do just bourbon, although that's their specialty. They do some flavored moonshines.
Oh wow!
They do some gins. A lot of flavored liqueurs that they use and put together. But whiskey is their main thing, and it's very, very good. And so they're trying to get to. I talk to them every time I'm down there. There's a lot of local distributors that are carrying their product now, but sometimes I just go to Franklin and pick up some if I know I'm going to be meeting up with somebody, and I talk to them, and I'm like, hey, I got a lot of people asking about this. When are you going to be able to start distributing out of state? And they're like, man, there's so much, and this is what we were talking about earlier. They're like, there's so much red tape. We're probably 2 or 3 years being ready before we'll start shipping out of state. He said, that's how much crap we got to go through, because you got to fight all the big guys, and you got to jump through all the hoops and to get some national distribution. It's pretty crazy. The liquor business is pretty crazy, and it differs from state to state. I'm learning a whole lot. I'm learning how a lot of states are just shut a lot up. Just they have deals with certain ones, and they try to keep everything else out. It's a pretty crooked. It's a pretty crooked business.
Big time. Well, I used to live in Oregon, and go ahead. The state owns all the liquor stores in Oregon when I used to live there.
Well, I think that's the way it is. If I'm not mistaken, I think Alabama's like that.
Probably.
And yeah, I think I learned that like last week because I was talking to someone, and I think Alabama's like that. It's crazy. And they really, 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 throttle what comes in. I mean, it's nuts. What's crazy about a state like this, and there's some states where you can distill your liquor at home,
right? And
as long as you're not distributing it, as long as you're not selling it, you can do that. Well, in Kentucky, you can't. That's illegal.
Of course,
it's illegal to distill for your personal consumption. I don't care if you're not running off, but a half a gallon on top of your stove in your house, it's illegal. And it's all because it's not necessarily because of the taxes, but it's the good old boys that are got their hands up there in Frankfurt in the legislators' pockets that run the bigger distilleries. If every bit that you're making at home, you're taking money out of their pocket. Yeah. And so they want to keep it illegal.
Yeah, my buddy Randall was saying that
for your own personal consumption.
My buddy Randall was telling me that Jim Beam is the worst one for all that.
Oh, I'm sure it probably is.
Yeah, which is great because I hate Jim Beam. I won't drink it at all.
That's good. I'm kind of with you.
But it makes sense.
I kind of like Heaven Hill. Heaven Hill makes some of the better lower cost bourbons. Sure. So Heaven Hill, as far as one of the bigger distilleries, I like those guys.
I was in Kentucky in 2018.
Probably a little bit crooked.
I was in Kentucky in 2018, and I went and did the whiskey trail, the bourbon trail, and I got to go see all the distilleries up there. Even though there's one that's really, really, really old. It looks like an old castle. I can't remember the damn name of it. I guess they had a fire there or something like that. But I did the whole thing, and man, it was really, really cool. But I'm a big fan of some of the cheaper stuff too. I love the kickin' chicken, man. Like Wild Turkey, I'll drink Wild Turkey all day long. Yeah. I love it. I love it to death.
The Long Branch that they make is really good. The Long Branch that's made by Wild Turkey, and it's really good. I recommend it.
I'll have to check it out, man.
And it's not terribly. I mean, it's like $25, $30 a bottle.
Sure.
And I say that some people are like, well, I can get this for $19. But you don't understand. I sometimes I'll spend $90 or $100 on one. So when I find one for $30 that I like, it's like, yeah, I can do this. So
I basically never get a bottle
out there.
I never get a bottle of bourbon under $35, man. Almost ever.
Yeah. Well, Elijah Craig, Small Batch, and Larceny. Both of those are made by Heaven Hill, and both of those can be had for under $30, and they're great.
Yeah, Elijah Craig ain't too bad. I like it. It's all right.
Yeah. I like Larceny better. I don't think those are as consistent. I think there's probably, you're going to find some variance from bottle to bottle. I don't think the blending is as consistent with some of those as some of the higher price ones. But I'm going to go ahead and I will plug while I'm here. I'll plug Rabbit Hole Distillery.
Rabbit Hole
Distillery makes some great bourbon.
I've never tried any. I don't think I've tried any bourbons.
And they've got 3. If you look them up, they've got. I've had 3 different types. They put out different blends or different types and different. So like the Derringer is kind of like the Angel's Envy. It's finished in wine barrels. And it's the highest priced one. It's about $90. But then you get into like the Heingold, it's like, I want to say about $60. And then the Cave Hill is about $70. So there's like 3 different kind of price levels there. And they're all excellent. I was really, really surprised.
You know what's funny?
And those can be found, I think, pretty easily, nationwide.
Sure. You know what's funny though is we talk about getting a bottle of bourbon for 60, 70, 80, $90, right? And people will scoff. They'll be like, "Oh, that's a lot of money," But then those same people will go out to the bar and spend $150 on, 8 drinks.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's exactly right. You know, and everybody went crazy over Pappy Van Winkle, and I'm not. Hey, if you want to waste your money, I mean, Pappy Van Winkle is probably some of the best stuff I've ever had.
Amazing, ridiculous.
But if you want to waste your money, then go right ahead. Yeah. But there's others whiskeys that are really damn good that you can get for a lot cheaper. I want to tell you this before we, move on. But the cousin, the relative of mine that kind of got me started on this bourbon thing, and I drank when I was younger, running around in my 20s, but I drank Maker's Mark or whatever else.
Oh yeah, Maker's Mark.
Whatever came along, and well, for me back then, Maker's was top shelf.
Sure.
So, I was like, wow, you're talking about in the 90s, and you paid like $20 for that. Yeah. Wow, you Mr. Big Bucks. So, but he got me kind of started on that, but. I told you about the man cave. We got it done, and he called me and he said, "Hey, so come up." He said, "We'll celebrate having this thing done." And so we get down there, and we're all settling in. Got the TV on, fixing to. I think I can't remember what he got in pay-per-view. We're fixing to watch. He reaches up in one of the cabinets and he pulls out this velvet bag. And it's a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle, and I think it was probably 18-year-old, maybe.
That's the good stuff, yeah.
And yes, and he said, "Now my wife got this for me for our anniversary." He said, "I don't even want to know what she paid for it."
A lot.
Said, "I don't have any idea." He said, "I don't want to know." Yeah. He said, "But we're going to open this up." He said, "You can consider yourself very privileged." He said, "Because you're probably one of the very few that's going to get any of this at all." So, and it was very good. I mean, I got to give it that, but it's like
I've had really 2 good bottles of Pappy.
Really good.
I've had 2 bottles ever. Yeah, and it was the first one I actually got on the waiting list because you had to have you had to sign up. In Oregon, you had to sign up. Then you'd have to be down at the liquor store when the shipment came in, and then you could buy your thing. And it wasn't very expensive. I mean, it was I think it was the. With the 9-year or something, so it was like the bottom tier, and I think I paid $140 for the bottle, $120 for the bottle or something, and I drank all that.
Yeah,
I drank all of it. It was amazing. It was the best bourbon I'd ever had. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And then I got another bottle from a friend. I think it was a 12-year, and it was a gift from a friend. I didn't pay for it. I'm sure it cost him couple $100 at least. I turned around and sold it on Craigslist for $1,400.
Yes, exactly. And I'm going to tell you a lot of that, a lot of those prices and a lot of that hype, that they do that.
Yep.
They create that shortage on purpose, and they get that whole market. That's a marketing deal, man. And that's a created thing.
It's smart. I mean, if you could sell one bottle,
because you want to be, then you feel so like if you get a bottle, if you're so privileged to get a bottle, then you're kind of in this exclusive club,
right?
you know, you're part of the elite few who can get, because it's so they're doing such a limited run. Well, they do a limited run on purpose,
right? Of
so
course,
that you'll pay more fucking money for it.
Well, if you if you could sell one bottle of bourbon for the price of like 6 bottles of bourbon, you're killing it. You're doing a great job.
Yeah,
you know, why wouldn't you do that if you could get away with it?
See, Weller in this state got to where it was in short supply.
Sure.
And everybody's like, you got to get a bottle of Weller. If I try to find some Weller. And I finally did, which it was okay. Not for what I paid for it. And I started telling people what I paid for it. And they were like, well, I can remember when that was like $25 a bottle. And I'm like, yeah, but they weren't creating a shortage and a demand for it.
Right.
And now when you find a bottle, they're selling it at a premium for like $80.
Right.
I'm like, if I could get a bottle of it for $25, I'd buy another bottle, but I'm probably not going to pay $80 for it.
Bottle of Weller used to be able to get for $20.
I don't think it was that great. So
it's that whole supply and demand.
That's
thing,
me.
Man. It's the supply and demand.
Yeah,
it's libertarian free market principles, man. It's supply and demand.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm just saying that. People are suckers.
Oh, big time.
And if I was in their position, just like you said, if I was in their position, I would do the exact same thing.
Oh, of course.
Be like, yeah, sure.
Well, and they're suckers.
Discount your money.
They're especially suckers about Kentucky bourbon when they don't live in Kentucky.
Yes.
Especially.
But I'll be honest, man. Some of it is hard to come by in this state. Sometimes I had people, I was talking about trying to find some stuff, and people were showing me pictures from out of state. It's like, yeah, I walked right in and got this one. I'm like, yeah, we can't even find it. But you guys got it. You're over almost to the West Coast, or you're way up here, or you're up in the upper Midwest, and you've got it, but I can't find it here in the state where it was distilled.
Crazy.
There's not anywhere to be found.
That's wild. What a wild thing to think about. Especially, you think you can just walk into some of these distilleries and buy their bottles right there on the spot, man.
Some of them you can, and then some of them. I don't know that there's any of them that are crazy like Jack Daniels, where they are in a dry county.
Right.
Jack Daniels distillery in a dry county in Tennessee, and you can go in there and you can buy a bottle out of the gift shop, but you can't drink it.
Nope.
You can't taste test any of it. You can't.
It's the law.
Yeah.
It's wild, man. I got a really good buddy who lives in the whiskey region of Tennessee. And he sent me a bottle. He sent me a bottle at the national convention last year. I was in. It was in Orlando, and he sent some of the Tennessee delegates with a bottle of Gentleman's Jack for me, and it's good.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of Tennessee whiskey, man. I'm just not. I try.
Yeah.
But the Gentleman's Jack is good.
I've had a bottle of Gentleman Jack.
Yeah, that's good.
I've tried a bottle of Gentleman Jack. I toughed through it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Like,
but regular Jack Daniels is bad. I can't do it. I can't drink it at all.
It'll raise a blister on a leather boot.
It's like when I was a kid, I could drink Jim Beam and Jack Daniels and all that crap. And now as an adult, it's like all it's going to do is give me the worst fucking hangover I ever had ever.
Yeah.
Every time,
Yeah.
Now, and I'm almost 40 now. Yeah. It's like anything I drink is going to give me a hangover, so I might as well drink something good. You know what I mean?
Just, like today, if I know I'm going to go home later, and I'm probably going to partake. I've been slamming water all day.
Oh yeah, you gotta get ready.
One of the big secrets is to the hangover is to stay hydrated. Yep. Now you still may be tired as shit tomorrow, but you won't be hurting.
Yeah, your head won't hurt as
you'll
bad.
Be like,
you won't feel like you're gonna puke all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that, man.
Kind of like, I don't really feel like doing anything today.
Yeah. I had a really good buddy.
Hangover.
I had a really good buddy who was quite a bit older than me. We used to go out to the bars drinking, and he'd slam a beer and then slam a whole glass of water. And he was the one that taught me. He's like, "Listen, dude, you got to have a water for every drink you have. A water for every drink you have." And I'm like, I was in my early 20s. I was like, "No, I don't. I'm fucking fine. I can do this for 8 days straight." And now that I'm his age, when I was that young. I'm like, okay, gotta have a water after every drink. Gotta have a water after every drink, man.
You do.
Shit's rough.
It's rough. Had a very good friend of mine that taught me that. Yeah. We used to ride around, not to incriminate myself, but we used to ride around, and he had a big thermos of ice water there that sat in the front seat of the truck, and he said, every time you take a drink, he said, get a shot of that water.
Yeah.
He said, you won't have a hangover. You'll feel fine tomorrow. And he was right. I don't mix anything. And I probably drink everything neat unless I'm drinking rye or drinking a scotch. Then I want some ice in it.
Sure.
But I don't, no Cokes, none of that crap. And then just water. And
shit, I don't even use a glass anymore. I drink right out of the damn bottle now.
Well, I just use the glass for effect. Yeah. That's just, that's a photo op.
There's something about the air bubble that comes out of the bottle when you're drinking. It tastes better to me. I don't know what it is. I've recently, over the last couple of years, just started drinking my bourbon right out of the bottle. Unless I'm going to share it with somebody, then obviously I don't do shit. But unless they're cool with it. But I'll sit down here and work on my computer and do video editing, and I'll just take shots, pulls right out of the bottle, and it's the same as having it neat. But some about the little air bubble it creates at the top of the bottle, man. I don't know. It's like it aerates it, I think.
Yeah.
But anyways, man, I'm a big fan of yours, brother. I really appreciate you coming on Break the Cycle. Where can people follow you, support you, all that great stuff?
You just follow me at KRS, all caps, KRS, lower score, JAC. And I try not to disappoint. I ask folks all the time, every time I hit another milestone on the followers, which I don't understand, I'm like, y'all need a job. You guys need something to do. You guys need something to do if you're following me, because I'm telling you, I'm not saying that everything's 100% an act or false, but some stuff might be just a bit exaggerated. And so, you guys need something.
I think it's something about you posting pictures with you sitting out in your backyard by the fire pit with the glass, man. That's every time I see that, it's like it's like a comforting sight, man.
I'll just tell you just real quick, and I don't know if we got enough time or not, but
we've got a couple minutes.
Somebody asked me one time, about what brought me on Twitter, and I didn't join Twitter. I think it's till 2019. I was late in the game, but it was right after the midterms of 2018. And I was just so like, I'm going to, Twitter, I'm going to get on there. And I hated Facebook. And so, and I still have a Facebook account, but I don't use it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm going to get on here and I'm just going to just start bloviating, just start, getting my opinion out there, to start doing things. And I figured out real quick that nobody was interested in what I had to say. And so
losing you, buddy. I'm lost you.
So then I kind of fell in. What about now?
Oh, there we go. Now I got you.
Hang on.
All right. You back.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. So I kind of fell into the little Liberty corner there, and
they're good people, man.
I figured out real quick that I wasn't equipped to go against some of those in a debate. You better have both barrels loaded when you go in.
Yeah.
And you better know what you're talking about.
Yes.
So I just sat back and observed and learned. That's what I did. And so I think the secret is to find a niche. And then what I found was a niche. And it's just being me, but it's me with a little bit sprinkled on top. And then, then some political, kind of thrown in.
Sure.
And that seemed to have worked. I don't claim any type of, there's nothing special about me, but it's just, you found that niche and I just kind of went with it. And
I disagree,
I
brother.
Believe it. I started posting those pics, and it started taking off, and I'm like, what the hell?
Nice.
It's just a fire pit. It's just a whatever. It's just I'm just posting pictures of this, damn junk tractor that I'm working on or whatever that it is. And the most mundane stuff would just go nuts. But what I've realized is that there's so many people out there that follow us that we have in this circle for me, growing up with a lot of that stuff and being around it all the time, for me, it's every day.
Right.
But there's a lot of folks out there that didn't have that or wanting that are trying to go to that kind of living, that they're just eating it up. Yeah. And so I'm starting to understand that and, trying to cater to that now.
Yeah, I think a lot of us aspire to get that kind of lifestyle, especially with the shit that's going on these days, man. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, sure.
Everybody wants a little bit of land and a tractor and get the fuck out of the cities.
Well, I say all the time, I'm not a self-sufficient. I don't know that I'd ever be 100% self-sufficient.
Well,
we're more self-sufficient than we were 2 years ago. Am I comfortable with where we're at right now? No, but I don't know that if we were twice as prepared, I don't know that I would feel comfortable.
Right.
We just do the best that we can with what we have. And, I urge anyone to, any way that you can take anything out of the system, do it. I don't promote anything that's illicit or would be maybe considered illegal, but anything that you can do to take away, to take out, to do things there at home, to produce things at home, to lessen your trips to the grocery store or to lighten your load, do those things because they'll help. And that kind of helps starve a little bit of the system that we all just despise. It won't get rid of it.
Raise independent, strong children. That's what I say.
Yes. And I have done that with mine. I have got to say, I have 3 very headstrong, very independent thinking, very questioning young men that, and of course they've grown up listening to me rant. For my oldest is 25 and my twins just turned 20. My twins were born a week after 9/11.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so they have had it, I won't say indoctrinated, but maybe it is. They've been drilled, and I wasn't preaching at them. It was just they listened to me talk about these things. Me and their mother, or me and whoever would talk about these things, and raise up a child in the way that they should go. And when they're older, they will not depart from it.
Sure, good. That's what I'm doing right now with 7 of them. 7.
Yes, and I love it.
It's wild, man. It's wild.
I love it. Everything that you're doing there is great.
I appreciate it.
It really
that,
is,
man.
And I love to see the posts.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I try to mix up the state hating posts and the wholesome family posts. You know what I mean? Like try to do both.
You gotta, you can't just go full throttle on the state hating posts all the time. You've got to step back. We were talking about some of that. Well, I was talking about some of that. Sorry, I get tongue tied.
That's all right. Me too.
I try to get too fast.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone about some of that last night to that effect. That we were talking about the fire pics and the posts and the things, and I'm like, they were like, there's something just so relaxing about seeing those pictures and just looking into that fire. And I'm like, I think people need that right now. You need to find whatever that moment is that you can just break away for a little while from what's going on, and just whatever that is, whether that's spending quiet time reading, or time out by the fire looking at the stars, sitting with the dog,
playing with your kids,
sitting with your spouse, playing with your kids. Yeah. Do those things because that helps keep us clear up here.
Balance, a little balance, man. Take us back to homeostasis.
Because if you get too much of the other crap, you're headed straight for the crapper. And we've all had our black pill moments over the last 18 months, 19 months. I've had mine, but I'm trying to help people to steer clear of that. I'm trying to help them with that, to just, hey, break off from this for a little while, and just like the common thing that everybody say, go out and touch some grass. Go out and, just get away from it for a little bit.
Touching grass is good, actually. Touching grass is good, actually.
Yes.
Go touch some grass. Yes. Enjoy some outdoor living, man. It's I know the winter's coming and camping's going to suck for a while, but go do something outside. It's important.
Yeah. Well, hey, the colder it gets, just build a bigger fire. Just throw more wood on it.
I don't know, man. I live in Iowa. We get like -30 here, brother.
Oh, yeah, it sucks.
It's horrible. Horrible.
It's terrible. Sucks to be you.
Yeah, it's hardcore, dude. I came here from California. I came here from California last year, so I'm not used to it yet.
Oh, wow.
I just braved my first winter.
That's a big shock.
It was rough, dude. Rough. But you know what? It's 1/5 the cost of living here. And people are friendly, and I don't got to worry about Gavin Newsom. So,
So say it makes it all worth it.
All worth it. Every cold degree is worth it, I promise.
Yeah.
Well, brother,
all worth it.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on Break the Cycle, man. I'm a big fan. I really appreciate you. I hope everyone will go follow you, and maybe we can have you on again in the future.
All right. Thanks for having me on, Josh. I appreciate it.
Of course,
and it was a good time.
My pleasure.
All
right, guys, another awesome episode of Break the Cycle. Thanks for coming by. Make sure you go check out Kentucky Rebel Scum on Twitter. Of course, it's at KRS_JAC. Follow him. He's a great follow. He's going to ground you. I promise you. He's a great guy. I don't know what show's coming up next. I don't know what day this is getting released yet. I'm just recording like 7 shows this weekend to be released while I'm in Disney World. So whatever day it is, I hope you're having a good one. Go check out my sponsors, toplobster.com, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend and partner on Break the Cycle, where you can get this great Ron Paul hoodie that I'm wearing today at a 10% discount by using BTC at checkout, or you can join the Patreon, subscribe star, or become a member of the YouTube channel under all my videos by hitting the join link anywhere on any of my videos. And you can get in the private Discord server where you can get all of his new gear up to 2 weeks early before it goes to the general public at a 30% discount. And of course, executive producers of the show, anthemplanning.com, for all your emergency and crisis planning needs. Check them out today. See what they can do for your business, home, or personal life. They're doing a wonderful job that the government has historically sucked at, much cheaper and much more efficiently. Seriously, if you own a business, go check them out right now. Show's ending. Go check it out right now. I'll see you either tomorrow or the following week, depending on what day this comes out. I think it's probably, you're going to have like Sky Daddy's going to be on, or Citizen Hush is going to be on, or Drew Hancock, or maybe Clint from Liberty Lockdown. One of those shows is going to be tomorrow or Monday. I will see you then. Until then, don't forget to break the cycle.
Due to legal reasons, I just have to explain. The lyrics of my last song may seem to contain a violent call to action in the verse and refrain, but I just meant it in Minecraft. The helicopter part was in reference to GTA 5 and the things you do. So any violence you commit, I am not an excuse, because I just meant it in Minecraft. A trooper is my friend and he's constantly cold. Accusations of incitement getting totally old. Make your own choices, yeah, you have control, because I just meant it in Minecraft. Obviously I would never advocate force, unless there's due process and a trial, of course. And if you're convicted, we will make you a corpse in Minecraft, just in Minecraft. Nothing I mean, you know it. The product is getting close to COVID. Holy shit, I think I'm